In 2006, the U.S. Army set up a number of outposts in northern Afghanistan to fight the insurgency. The team consists of Romesha, Gallegos, Skous, Younger, and Kirk. Sergeant Romesha advises everyone to forget about their families while they are in this valley, because no one knows how it might end. When the helicopter landed, they were met by other soldiers who were already guarding the outpost. A new day dawns, and Romesha is amazed because the camp is in a lowland. In fact, they are essentially in the palm of the Taliban's hand on all sides. Suddenly, they are fired upon. The soldiers go on the defensive. Captain Keating orders to use a mortar and suppress the Taliban's fire. After a few explosions, the enemies disappear, but the first wounded soldiers appear. One of them is Jacob. He says that this outpost is very poorly made and they are all surrounded. Nevertheless, the operation was successful, and Jacob wants to return to the battle. Rodriguez doesn't understand why he wants to, because he has seen many soldiers who tried to look tough, but they all ended up the same way, and eventually died. Captain Keating finds out that Soldier Faulkner has decided to entertain himself with illegal substances, which is a big problem because there are only 54 of them here, and they all have to trust and rely on each other. Faulkner promises that this will not happen again. After 10 minutes, the general meeting begins. Keating thinks about how they can survive being the main target of the militants. He decides to build relationships with the locals because respect can help them survive. They will invite all the elders of the valley, and Keating will be as polite as possible. After a while, negotiations begin. The elders do not like the fact that the Americans have been on their land for more than 40 years. Keating explains that he wants to separate the civilians from the Taliban so that they don't make any mistakes. There is money in the envelope for civilians to improve their lives. All they have to do is lay down their weapons and stay out of the way. One of the elders asks, "What will happen if we refuse?" But Keating does not answer this question. Then the man gives the order to lay down their weapons. Keating is glad they made the right decision by cooperating with them. However, the very next day they are attacked again. The High Command wants to move the truck back to the main base. Martin is against it because the only road leading there is very narrow and dangerous. Keating hints that they do not have the authority to argue with the command, but to make sure everything goes well, he personally drives the truck to the target. In this regard, the team abandoned all vehicles. As soon as the truck drove up the slope, a rock fell from the mountain, causing an accident. The soldiers return to duty. Ilescas becomes their new commander. Romesha gives Ilescas a tour of the base. A unit of the local army is with them. Before they have time to discuss everything, they are attacked again, but a mortar calms the enemies and stops the shooting. The captain gives the order to inspect the area, and Romesha sees with his own eyes how vulnerable their base is. He assumes that every Taliban attack is a study of their defense, and when there are more enemies, there will be a final, hardest attack. He believes that the first target will be a mortar team, then an armored vehicle, and then a warehouse and electricity. When the communication is cut off, the assault on the camp will begin. One of the soldiers asks how they can stop the enemy. Ramesh answers, "There is no way." One day, a soldier notices a local taking pictures of their base. A chase begins, but even warning shots do not stop the man. Only when he crashes into another soldier does the chase end. During interrogation, he says that the elders asked him to take pictures of the camp. They have to convene a council and find the enemy elder. The man says that Ilescas is breaking his promise to Captain Keating, and now he is taking their children. Ilescas pulls out an envelope with money to build a school, demonstrating his desire to fulfill his promise. But before that, he needs to find the traitor. Romesha notices that half of the Afghans from the last council are not here. In the evening, Mohammed, a translator, comes to the camp. He has information that the Taliban are coming to them with a hostile attitude. The last council was unsuccessful, so they need to prepare for defense as soon as possible. However, the soldiers take this as a joke, because the last time he said the same thing, nothing happened. No matter how he tries to explain everything to the soldiers, they still don't listen to him. Nothing happened during the night. Towards morning, Mohammed intercepts someone's signal, but he does not understand the dialect. Ilescas and Younger walk into an ambush. The survivor, Younger, is shocked by what he sees and begins to think about leaving this life. Romesha notices the boy, takes a bullet out of the chamber, and tells him that he had a similar situation. His best friend died in front of him, but he realized that his relatives were waiting for him at home, and he had to fight to the end. To avoid problems, Younger is allowed to fly away in a medical helicopter. Near the bridge, they manage to find an Afghan ID card. Molak remembers this guy. He works at a hydroelectric power plant. Romesha wants to search the nearby villages, but Broward orders them not to look for the suspect, because an investigator they have been sent to do so. When the base is attacked, mortars are quickly aimed at the enemy target, from where they are firing. But before returning fire, Broward orders Romesha to see if the enemy has a weapon or radio. He tries to explain that if they are being shot at, then the enemy definitely has weapons. However, Broward repeats his order, and Romesha expresses his dissatisfaction. The officer says that 4 captains have died here before. Broward has seen much more than they have, and he was assigned here for a reason, so they must follow his orders. In the dead of night, the Taliban began using a new tactic: mortar attacks. The soldiers respond with white phosphorus strikes. The command is surprised that the insurgents have launched mortars at night, which means they definitely have night vision devices. In the morning, the elders came. According to them, one of them had a daughter who died after being shelled with phosphorus, and the body had already begun to decompose. The sergeant reports this to the captain, but he pays the money anyway. Just an hour later, Broward comes in with the news that he has been relieved of his post and will be leaving in 2 days. Captain Portis will replace him, but he will be gone for a couple of weeks, and while he is gone, Lieutenant Andrew will be in charge. Andrew realizes that the situation is very serious if Portis is appointed to this position. None of the soldiers should talk about the change of command. It is October 3rd, which means that there are 2 days left until the outpost is disbanded. Mohammed shouts that all the villagers have left, and soon the whole Taliban army will come here. The soldiers, as always, take it as a joke. But a few minutes later, noise begins to come from the mountains, and the enemies surround the outpost. The soldiers open fire. Rod tries to cover the mortar man Thompson, but a flurry of bullets and explosions kills Thompson. Andrew tries to call for air support, but no one can arrive due to bad weather. The Afghan soldiers didn't want to die, so they decide to run away. The ammunition for the machine gun is quickly running out. The soldiers are under fire, and they are running out of ammunition. The number of soldiers is rapidly decreasing. Smoke grenades are being thrown into the aisles to pull bodies into the building and see who is still alive. Carter fills his hands with ammunition and runs to the machine gun emplacement, not even realizing that the Taliban have hit the machine gun directly, disabling it. Romesha tries to save the soldiers, but an RPG explosion wounds him and he is forced to retreat. The enemy has a sniper. Romesha is also armed with a sniper's weapon, and he starts searching for the enemy sniper and successfully eliminates him. After a short rest, Griffin runs out of the car, but is immediately killed as the Taliban begin an assault. Somewhere in the distance, special forces have landed on the mountain and are already hurrying to the outpost. Andrew relays the order to the survivors, but Romesha has a different plan. He wants to lock himself in the ammunition depot and fight back from there. Since the enemy is already at the base, they definitely have access to walkie-talkies. He needs to change the frequency of communication, but the soldiers stuck in the car do not know this. They try to make their way to the headquarters, but almost all of them die. When it seemed that they would not survive, helicopters fly over and destroy some of the enemies. Andrew tells all the soldiers that a bomber is flying towards them, so they need to get back to the main building as soon as possible. After a while, the Special Forces unit reaches the outpost, but the Taliban are already retreating. The movie ends with a scene of the soldiers flying back to the base and the outpost being completely destroyed. Their unit became the most decorated unit in the history of the U.S. Army in Afghanistan.